Welcome to the 175, a channel dedicated to clear thinking, food for thought, and common sense. I am sitting on a deck overlooking the Severn River in the Washington, D.C. area today. And we want to talk a little bit about, well, guess what? Washington, D.C. impeachment. I got a Facebook message from an old friend of mine who hails from Bakersfield, California, and I'm not exactly sure where she lives today. But she was having a conversation with some of her more liberal friends, and they brought up a whole bunch of things that she just didn't even know where to begin. And so I thought we would take her note on this extended 175 and give it a bit of a treatment, kind of ad hoc, if you will. She writes that her friend believes that Donald Trump is passive-aggressive. Quote, you can't exactly put it into words what they did or didn't do. It's not so much what he's done specifically, but what he doesn't do and what he avoids. Like I said, he sees his followers create hate crimes in his name and race wars, and he has said not one word about it. Now, I don't know who this lady is. I don't know who. I assume it's a lady, but this particular person doesn't understand history. Donald Trump has said more than once, don't be stupid about the Jewish, anti-Semitism that's happening in New York City, all sorts of different things. But I would even bring it back one step further. I don't believe in the concept of hate crimes. I think hate crimes is a silly policy. The fact is, every crime has a certain element of hate, and I don't think you should elevate one murder over another, or one rape over another, or one terrorist organization over another. I just think they ought to be swiftly and very strongly dealt with. So as far as I'm concerned, the whole concept's funny, but let's just say it isn't. If you had that view, then of course you're not going to speak on that kind of thing, even though I'm not exactly sure what she means as far as the historical view, because Obama, as far as I'm concerned, sowed more hate than anybody. He was so front and center on the whole police brutality thing of Ferguson that it was just ridiculous, and the DOJ went all over the place, not only in Baltimore but in other places, making police departments do different things because they thought they weren't policing them fairly. And as most of you know, the Jewish folks that were attacked by knife point in New York City and several other places, those people were arrested and then given bail without any kind of verification of address, work, job, etc. And so they're free today. Bail meaning free from New York City. So here in California, well, not here, because this is, in fact, Maryland, but in California, they have started to decriminalize retail theft. Well, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to get more retail theft. And if there is no consequence to other kinds of crimes in New York City, then of course you're going to have more hate crimes, which I consider almost every crime a hate crime against somebody. Certainly assault is, battery, etc. So all that stuff doesn't really bother me. And the other thing along that line is it's very difficult to condemn somebody out of silence. They didn't do something that you think they should have done more. Well, that must meant that they were doing something else as well. In her little deal here, she talks about natural disasters happening in other countries that we normally take responsibly for, and he doesn't respond. Well, this lady doesn't understand that Obama used to apologize for the United States for everything it did, everything it stood for, to foreign leaders. Trump doesn't do that because he believes America is the greatest country in the world. And yes, there's going to be natural consequences to all sorts of different things, but he doesn't think that we should be, whatever you call it, powering those foreign leaders into thinking that we are weak. And I agree with that sentiment. He talks about all sorts of things regarding his comments regarding fires in California and other people who are less fortunate. But what she doesn't understand is the fires in California, as well as western Montana, are almost all exclusively because of the federal government environmental policies. if they would just allow the loggers to go and thin those forests like they're supposed to, take out the brush that's underneath there, and make those things so that they don't run on absolutely combustible fuel, that would be solved. But the environmentalists restrict the amount of roads that can go into any particular national forest. Hence, the fires go out of control. So Mr. Trump is absolutely right in the sense that it's their own fault. There's not a thing that the federal government can do when the state and or previous congressional EPA laws have made it impossible to control those things. So you're going to live with those forever. And the pipeline, she talks about the pipeline to protect Native Americans or the what do you call those things? The natural disasters that happen with pipelines from time to time. That he is ignoring the environment. Well, as Bush tried to, it couldn't get it done. The Arctic National Reserve up in the northern part of Alaska has something on the order of 2 million acres. The drilling that they want to do would have taken out 2,000 acres. So that gives you an idea of the percentage. They had to, make space for the drilling rigs and roads to get it out of there, et cetera, and a little bit of a pipeline to join the Alaska pipeline. And it was so easy, so simple, but they wouldn't do it. So instead, you have Dakota fracking and all sorts of different things that are happening in the eastern Montana, North Dakota, western Minnesota area. That is all energy related, and now we're an exporter, mainly because Mr. Trump said, okay, let's put this particular pipeline in order. And yes, there are going to be problems because it is a man-made thing, but as a comparison, an ROI, if you will, it's such a good deal. He talks about this disrespectful labels regarding Mexican drug and sex trafficking. This is such a boring statement. The fact is the reason why you need a border wall and security is because the world has changed. There is sex trafficking coming left and right. There's terrorism now, not to mention the cray-cray drug people. So as far as I'm concerned, they should border every wall and upgrade the Coast Guard ability to shoot down planes that don't respond. And the reason why is because these people know the rules and they skirt them, and it's a scourge onto the country. If it's true that 50,000 some odd people die from all sorts of drug overdoses a year, it seems to me like that just is money well spent to stop that kind of craziness and try to restrict the amount of people who are addicted or who are being taken advantage of. And what's that got to do with anything anyway? Illegal immigrants shouldn't be allowed to get driver's license or medical or food or anything. You're enabling them to be illegal. So either the law means something or it doesn't. And furthermore, it also kind of slap in the face with those who did go through the arduous legal process to become a citizen. You're just kind of saying, okay, let them cut in line. It's a bad idea all the way around. And we're talking about illegal now, illegal. Anyway, he goes on to say that much of this particular beef is that Trump doesn't do this or doesn't say that. I don't see him having compassion or empathy. That's just wrong. He has empathy for people who are hurt in battle. He's visited several different hospitals as well as met different planes when they're carrying deceased servicemen. He's made all sorts of comments and engagements with people who are less fortunate than him in the sense that they're trying to do something about it. They're not just cray-cray people who are being enabled to live on the streets, etc., and make life miserable for the entire community. That's not what he's doing. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe, which is the final thing here, that somehow Donald Trump is cruel. Well, I don't look at it as cruel. I look at it as realistic. Yeah, he may be lacking some sort of social graces to make people feel good, but the policies themselves seem to be absolutely correct. As far as his past goes, some people are mentioning things like universities or construction contractors, etc. As far as I'm concerned, anybody in New York construction world is going to get sued literally every day by somebody. Just remember, there's a lot of corruption in New York, lots of unions in New York, and those particular items often create conflict. And if you're not tougher than nails, then that's exactly what is going to happen. And, a New Yorker by nature is a little more brash than the rest of the crew of the U.S., and that's exactly what they're like. So I don't believe in any of this stuff about this. I think everything he does, he seems to think that it's right. In other words, it's got a ends that is very important, regardless of the means. Now, sometimes that gets people in trouble, and it may get him in trouble. But as far as most of it goes, I think he just thinks he's got to do what's right, and that's the way it is. And he doesn't care what other people think about it. And I think that's kind of refreshing in general. I could say more, but that's the gist of this particular Facebook message. So hopefully this works, Casey, and you can take that and do with it what you wish. I would point people to the townhall.com website, where Wayne Grudem talked a lot about, in a big article yesterday, about Trump and why he should not be removed or impeached. It's quite good. Wayne Grudem is the systematic theology professor of Phoenix Seminary, and he's also 40 some odd years teaching Christian ethics. He's got a great big book about it. It's really good. That's it for the 175. If you'd like to subscribe, please do. You'll get updates about when we post wherever we are in the world. And we also ask you to follow my Facebook page, because often Facebook censors the things that we do put up there. And if you're a follower, you do get it. Take care. We'll see you later. More on the 175.